Have you ever felt like the world saw you one way, but deep down, you knew there was so much more to you? What if behind all the fame and attention, there was a part of you that remained hidden, a side nobody could truly understand? Today, we're peeling back the curtain on the powerful, emotional connection between two music legends, Karen Carpenter and Dionne Warwick. This isn't just a story of friendship, it's a story about human connection, struggles that remain unseen, and the cost of fame. Stick with us as we uncover a tale that goes beyond the music, a story that shows the price of perfection and the emotional toll of fame. The Unexpected Friendship, 1979. In the heart of the music industry, where the legends of pop and soul collide, Karen Carpenter found herself on the edge. The pressure of being the voice behind the Carpenters, a group adored for their sweet melodies and the image of perfect harmony, was starting to take its toll.
Don't know why he's riding so high. You gotta do right, you gotta do right.
Meanwhile, across town, another legendary figure, Dionne Warwick, was making waves with her soulful ballads and her own struggles within the industry. But how did two women, whose careers had followed different trajectories, end up as the closest of confidants? It was a chance encounter in a studio that sparked the beginning of an extraordinary bond. In a world dominated by competition and egos, Karen found a safe haven in Dionne. Dionne was more than just another singer in the business. She was a beacon of resilience. What stood out about Dionne was her ability to stay grounded, despite the fame and the public pressures. For Karen, it was like finding a mirror, someone who understood the inner workings of the music world, but also the emotional turmoil it brought. Dionne's experience made her a steady presence for Karen, someone she could trust in a world full of superficial connections. For once, Karen didn't have to play the perfect pop star. She could just be herself, vulnerable and imperfect. But as their friendship grew, Karen began revealing more than just her professional struggles. She shared the pain of living up to the expectations of being perfect, of being more than just a voice, but a product. Karen's emotional walls came down with Dionne in a way they hadn't with anyone else. The promise. It was in one of their late-night conversations, a moment of raw honesty, that Karen shared a secret she had never spoken aloud to anyone else. She looked at Dionne, and without hesitation, she made a quiet but heavy promise. If anything ever happens to me, I want you to remember me the way I really am, not the way the world wants to see me. Dionne paused. There was a weight to Karen's words, a certain finality in them that made her uneasy. What did Karen mean? Was she hinting at something even darker, something Dionne hadn't yet realized? Dionne, in her compassionate nature, simply nodded. At that moment, Dionne didn't fully grasp the significance of those words, but she sensed their importance. Little did she know, those words would guide her through the years to come, a constant reminder of who Karen truly was beyond the fame. The idea of being remembered as someone you weren't, as someone whose life had been a performance in front of millions, haunted Karen, but she believed that Dionne was the one person who would ensure she was remembered as more than just the tragic figure the media would paint her to be. Karen's struggle, the hidden battle. Let's pause for a moment and think about what it's like to live in the spotlight. The constant pressure to be flawless, to be everything to everyone. For Karen, this pressure was suffocating. The world knew her as the sweet, innocent voice behind songs like "Close to You" and "We've Only Just Begun." But what they didn't see was the toll it took on her. Behind the glossy exterior, Karen was struggling with anorexia, a disorder that made her feel like she had no control over her life, except for what she put in her body. Her fame, her image, and her own self-worth had become intertwined in a way that made her feel trapped. Karen couldn't escape the pressure to maintain the perfect image that was constantly demanded of her. But she couldn't stop performing either. It was what she did, and more than that, it was who she was. Can you imagine how it feels to be adored by millions, yet feel so alone? To be loved for your voice, but not your soul? Karen's anorexia wasn't just a physical struggle. It was a desperate cry for control, a way for her to reclaim something in a life that felt like it was spiraling out of control. Dionne watched from the sidelines, helpless yet supportive. She could see her friend deteriorating, and though Karen never fully confided in her about the extent of her illness, Dionne could feel the pain radiating beneath the surface. One fateful night, Karen handed Dionne a cassette tape. "Keep this," she said softly. "If something happens to me, this is who I really am." The tape was filled with raw, unpolished songs that Karen had never allowed the world to hear. These weren't the perfect, high-gloss tracks of the Carpenters. They were messy, personal, and vulnerable. It was Karen as she truly was, not the image the public adored, but the woman who had struggled to fit into a box she was never meant to occupy. The tragic end, February 1983, the world was shaken by the news of Karen's passing.
It was overwhelmingly shocking and saddening, and yeah, I was totally blown away by that.
The tragedy was felt deeply, but for those closest to her, it was also a deep heartbreak.
I was in the car with my husband, the radio was on, and up comes this alert that Karen Carpenter died.
Because they knew the world would never know the real Karen. She wasn't just the fragile star that the media had portrayed. She was a woman with dreams, fears, and battles that no one had understood. In the wake of Karen's death, Dionne was left with a heavy heart, carrying not just the memories of her dear friend, but the promise she had made. The world would only remember Karen as the beautiful voice who tragically succumbed to her illness. But Dionne knew the truth. Dionne had the tape, but more importantly, she had Karen's story, a story that was more than the tragic end. Karen was more than the perfect pop star. She was a woman who had struggled to live up to an image and had paid a heavy price for it. Dionne couldn't let that truth be lost. Breaking the silence. Years went by, and while Karen's name was still remembered, the narrative of her life stayed stagnant. The public only knew the surface. They never got to see the woman behind the music. They never knew the depths of Karen's pain. And that's why Dionne finally spoke up. She broke her silence, not to glorify Karen's struggles, but to ensure that Karen's truth was heard, that she wasn't just the tragedy. She was the woman who had loved, laughed, and fought every day against the pressures of fame. Dionne's decision wasn't easy. She had promised to protect Karen's memory, but she also knew that to truly honor her friend, the world needed to see Karen as she had been, as a person. The public needed to understand that Karen's life wasn't just a cautionary tale, but a story of a woman who had lived her truth, despite the overwhelming pressure to be perfect. The legacy of Karen Carpenter. Karen's legacy, while bittersweet, is not just about the songs she sang. It's about the woman who sang them. It's about the unspoken moments, the quiet struggles, and the friendship that helped her survive in a world that often overlooked her humanity. Karen's story is one of resilience, of love, and of friendship. And for that, we owe it to her to remember the real Karen, not the polished star, but the woman who fought for her identity in a world that didn't understand her. What do you think about Karen's story? Do you think fame can sometimes hide a person's true struggles? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Also, don't forget to like this video if you think Karen Carpenter's legacy deserves to be remembered for who she truly was. Also, subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification so you can stay tuned for more untold stories of music legends. Until next time.